The last flight of Flight 90.
Air Florida Flight 90 crash, January 13, 1982. 13th of January, 1982 Washington National Airport in Washington, D.C., United States Boeing 737-222 with registration N62AF Flight, scheduled passenger flight from Washington National, DCA, to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, with a stop in Tampa. Occupants, 79, 74 passengers, 5 crew. 78 fatalities, 4 on the ground and 74 on an aircraft, 5 survivors. One of the worst snowstorms in years hit Washington, D.C. Snow and ice were rapidly accumulating on aircraft, visibility was reduced, and the temperature was below freezing. The airport struggled to keep runways clear, and flights were heavily delayed. The Boeing 737-powered Air Florida Flight 90 was supposed to take off at 2:15 p.m., but the crew had to wait a long time for de-icing and clearance. The wings and control surfaces of the aircraft had already developed significant ice when they finally got ready for takeoff. Flight and crash. The aircraft began its takeoff roll on runway 36 at 3:59 p.m. The crew's failure to activate the engine anti-ice system, which allowed ice to clog sensors and provide false power readings, was partially to blame for the engines producing less thrust than anticipated almost immediately. The aircraft barely cleared the end of the runway as it struggled to gain altitude. Later, witnesses recalled the plane's unusually low flight, ice-laden weight, and buffeting. The 737 crashed into the 14th Street Bridge across the Potomac River after just 30 seconds of flight, crushing 4 cars and killing 4 people who were driving on the bridge. After a few seconds, the aircraft disintegrated and fell into the icy Potomac. People who escaped the river. Out of 79 people on board, only 6 initially survived the impact and found themselves in the freezing water. The sunken fuselage held many passengers hostage. The survivors clung desperately to wreckage in the near-freezing river. Helicopters from the U.S. When the park police arrived, they began removing individuals one at a time. One man, later identified as Arlen D., earned the moniker the hero in the water. Williams Jr., instead of saving himself, he repeatedly gave rescue lines to other passengers. He had died of hypothermia and drowned when the helicopter came to retrieve him. Ultimately, only 5 of the original survivors were pulled from the river alive. The National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, came to the following conclusion regarding the cause of the crash: failure to de-ice properly. Ice and snow were allowed to accumulate on the wings and engines. Failure to turn on the anti-ice systems in the engines resulted in inaccurate readings of the engine's pressure, which resulted in less thrust being produced than was intended. Crew's lack of experience in icy conditions. Both pilots were relatively inexperienced in winter operations. Poor decision-making. The captain continued the takeoff instead of aborting it despite struggling to gain power. The accident came to symbolize the lack of aviation safety during winter operations. It resulted in significant changes to U.S. aviation, including tighter de-icing procedures, enhanced crew training for icing conditions, and enhanced winter weather protocols for air traffic control and airlines. The Arlen D. was later given to the 14th Street Bridge. Williams Jr. Memorial Bridge in honor of the man who died saving others. The disaster received a lot of coverage in the media, in part because rescue operations were filmed live, which showed how dramatic helicopter rescues were and how passengers struggled in the icy water. Air Florida Flight 90 crashed because of ice accumulation, engine anti-ice failure, and crew mistakes in winter storm conditions. The tragedy resulted in the deaths of 78 people and brought to light the dangers of operating in snow and ice, which in turn led to long-term modifications to aviation safety.